for a dang world record for complicated functions. Or we're not anywhere close, but there aren't nearly enough ifs nested in each other here. But still. Okay, this color div seems like a really easy candidate to extract to its own function. So let's do that. Should I put it before or after handle submit? We're going to call it from inside handle submit. After. Well, let's experiment. Let's go to CodePen. Make a little something. If you want to follow along, I'll put this in Slack. This isn't going to last a real long time. Let's make a function. Function. Say yeah. Yeah. Function. Say my name. Or, my name. That just returns the string Davy. And inside say yeah, I want to alert. I used backticks. Yeah, comma. And I call the function my name. Or if you want, you could do this, whatever. If that's just a little too messy. Will it work? I call my name right here, but my name isn't defined until down here. Does it matter? How can we find out? We could run say yeah, right? Say girl, girl. Yeah, Davy. Woo! So, what if maybe it's because it's a function. What if I instead call say yeah way up here? Yeah. Why the heck does that work? Can I say const? Yeah, okay. Shut up. Shut up. Const in equals 4. And then say const sum equals 1 plus n. Alert sum. Yeah, it's not doing anything. If I check my console, in is not defined. So I can't use in up here, but I could use say yeah up here, even though it would appear not to be defined yet. So there are several ways you can create functions, and they behave a little differently. We said it's basically like creating a local variable called say yeah that just happens to equal a function. But when you use this syntax, this is a function declaration, JavaScript does something called hoisting, where within the same variable scope, all functions that are declared that way are going to be declared effectively at the beginning. It's going to hoist them up to the top. So you can use them before you've actually defined them. which is kind of convenient, but also maybe a little confusing. Now I said we could actually create say yeah as a variable like this, right? Now, what happens? Say yeah is not defined. So if you do it that way, then yeah, you need to use it. You need to define it before you use it. Does that matter in our original example? Where say yeah actually called another function. So let's say const say yeah equals that, const my name equals a function, also declared as a variable, return Davy, const name equals my name, alert, yeah, name, and then call say yeah. That works. Why? I couldn't just call my name up here. Yeah. Now my name is not defined. But it doesn't actually execute this line until say yeah is run, and say yeah isn't run until down here, right? So what if this said say yeah? No, it still works. Did it run it twice? I need to get it to run again. Now my name is not defined. Let's run this again just to make sure that we know what we're doing. Okay. My name is not defined. So now we've got a problem. Because we ran say yeah, and then it actually executed this line, and my name wasn't a thing anymore. So if you define functions using function declarations, using just this syntax without assigning them to a variable, then there's hoisting, and it actually pulls it up to the top of whatever scope you're in. If you assign them to variables, then they're just like any other variables, and they need to have been defined before you use them. So still, why could we even... So my name is now a variable. How come this variable is available inside this function? Let's simplify this a tad. Const name equals Roy. Does this work? Yeah, Roy. It works. So why is this variable available inside this function? Does that surprise anyone, or did you think that would work? It makes sense. So this is called closure. Functions in JavaScript are closures, which are functions that enclose the scope of their container. So any variables that are in scope outside this function, immediately outside this function, are also available inside the function. So a new function does create a new scope, so it has its own local variables, but it also has the local variables of its containing function. So that's handy. But what if I made a new variable inside here? Const n equals 4. say yeah, and then alert in. Yeah, Roy. And then in is not defined. Does that surprise anyone? Or did you think that would happen? So this is a local variable to this function, and it ceases to exist when this function stops executing. Right? So a new function always creates a new variable scope. What if I do this? Let's just take the alert out of here. And inside here I say name equals Olivia. And I say alert name. What's it going to be? Oh man, we got a war. What's going on here? Well, it ought to be something. I need to change something. I don't have any errors. What's going on? Why isn't it running? What's going on? Do the thing. Why isn't it doing anything or giving me an error? Oh, assignment to a constant variable. Can't reassign it. There we go. Now it works. And it is Olivia. So the change we made in here worked outside here. Now what if I said let name equals Olivia inside here? Roy. So when I didn't have that there, it was just name. It's looking for a variable that's already defined called name. And this variable is still in scope. So it happily reassigns it. And out here, the change still took effect. We were changing this variable. As soon as I say let, it's declaring a new variable. And it's doing so inside the scope of this function. So it's now a totally different variable called name. Now, that means we couldn't get to this one anymore. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I could use const both places now because I'm not reassigning it, right? It's a whole new variable. A whole new variable. Don't you dare close your eyes. Now it's Roy. So the difference between var and Lehtinen Const, I promised you. Back in the bad old days, what if I did this? What if I mistyped this here? And I said MAME. Error? Or what? What happens? Nope, it still worked. It still said Roy. So what the heck happened? There's no variable named this. Ah, JavaScript. Here's a lovely feature of JavaScript. If you assign something to a name that you've never declared, it says, oh, you must want a brand new global variable named MAME. So if I had MAME out here, yeah, Olivia, even though we assigned it for the first time inside this function, since we didn't say var or const or let or anything, it thought, oh, I see, new global variable, gotcha. That's a really unfortunate language feature because it makes it really hard to catch typos sometimes. Because if you try to assign a variable that you've never used before, it'll do it. Another reason kind of to use const. If we use const, then we're used to the idea that we can't reassign variables, right? We could create a brand new variable inside here that is maybe whatever name used to be plus Olivia or something. And if we wanted to use a different name inside here, maybe we should do something like that. Or even just that. If we're in the habit of using name, then if we ever try to do, we'll be used to the idea that we can't just reassign that, right, to something else. It'll force us to do it a different way, which will reduce the likelihood that we accidentally create a new global variable by trying to reassign something. So using const just kind of forces us to develop different habits, which can, I don't remember the last time I accidentally created a global variable like that. Certainly it hasn't been any time at all since I've accidentally mistyped the name of a variable, but because I'm using const all the time, I'm used to not just having bare assignment lines like that. So how about this? If true, const name equal Lisa Marie. Is that legal? Am I redeclaring this or not? Am I trying to reuse a name inside the same scope? Let's do this again just to get it to run again. I don't see an error. What if I used var? And what if I console log name out here? And if I change this to const, Roy. Var. Name's already been taken. So you get what's happening here? We've established that writing a new function creates a new variable scope. So any new variables declared inside that function are local to that function. This time we're getting inconsistent behavior. And that is the difference between var and Lehtinen Const. With var, the only time a new variable scope is created is inside a function. So when you say var, that is a local variable inside its containing function. With Lehtinen Const, it's local to its block. So things like an if block create a new variable scope. If I declare brand new variables inside a for loop or an if, Those are local to that and cease to exist as soon as that block is over. With var, it's going to be in its containing scope. It's going to be inside the nearest function. Which is a little weird and not how most languages work. Most languages, I think, that we're used to have lexical scoping, which is what we're talking about, where any kind of new block, an if, a for loop, etc., creates a new local variable scope. And JavaScript just wasn't designed that way. But if we use Lehtinen Const in ES6, then it does behave that way. So it's a little closer to what we expect, and it's just darn convenient a lot of times. So that's why we use Lehtinen Const instead of var, because it uses lexical scoping when we do that. Do you have a question? If it's, I mean, if I put a new block in here or whatever, name's still going to be available, right? Because of closure. Because of the fact that all my local variables from the container are still available inside another block inside of that. So that's fine. It's just if we wanted to declare something in here that we wanted to be available afterward, you could use var, but what would be better is if you created that variable out here and assigned it. So if that were something you wanted to do, you might have to use let because you'd be reassigning it. But there's also probably a better way if that's what you feel like you need to do. So I didn't save all my previous experiments, so this code pin isn't terribly useful at this point. But so that's a quick overview of scope, even though we didn't actually demonstrate any of that in our code here, right? We ran out of time to actually extract any of this to a separate function. So take a wild guess what your homework's going to be.